The Exiled Empire had always looked down upon humans. To the powerful alien race, humanity was young, reckless, and insignificant in the grand order of the galaxy. Their technology was decent, but nowhere near the level of the Exiled. Their warships were strong, but not strong enough to threaten the Empire. And yet, despite all this, humans had a strange way of surviving and expanding, something even the Exiled king could not ignore. So when a territorial dispute between humanity and the Exiled reached a boiling point, the king sought a way to avoid unnecessary war. Destroying humans outright would waste resources, and the king prided himself on strategy rather than brute force. A treaty was needed, something that would tie the two civilizations together without giving humanity too much power. That was when he thought of his daughter, Princess Soraya. Soraya was considered a disappointment in the royal bloodline. Born into one of the most powerful families in the galaxy, she was expected to continue the Exiled legacy. But due to a rare condition, Exiled doctors had declared her infertile, unable to produce an heir. In the Empire, such a condition made her practically useless in political marriages. For years, the king had hidden her away, embarrassed by her existence. Now she had one final use. The king declared that Soraya would be given to a human as a gift of peace. It was presented as a generous offer, a way to bring their species closer together. In reality, it was a way to dispose of her while keeping human leadership under control. The humans were caught off guard by the proposal. No one expected the Exiled to offer a member of their royal family in such a way. Some suspected a trap, but politically, it was too beneficial to refuse. After much negotiation, the decision was made. Soraya would be given to Captain Elias Voss, a decorated officer in the Terran fleet. Elias had no say in the matter. He had been stationed on the outer colonies, keeping order on remote planets where few wanted to live. He wasn't a politician or a high-ranking commander. He was just a soldier who had served well, someone the government saw as responsible enough for this unusual situation. When he received the news, Elias didn't know how to react. He had never even seen an Exiled in person, and now he was being given one as part of a peace treaty. He had expected to retire with a quiet life, maybe on some backwater farming world. Instead, he was about to take responsibility for an alien princess. The meeting took place aboard a neutral station, far from human and Exiled homeworlds. Elias arrived in his formal uniform, standing straight, his expression unreadable. He had faced battle before, but this was something entirely different. The doors opened, and Soraya stepped in. She was tall, her skin a deep shade of violet, with faint, silver markings that shimmered under the station's lights. Her long, flowing hair resembled strands of silk, a mixture of dark blue and soft white. Unlike the humans in the room, her eyes glowed faintly, an eerie but captivating sight. She wore ceremonial robes, heavy with symbols of her people, though her posture was stiff, her face emotionless. For a moment, silence filled the room. Elias saw something in her expression, hidden beneath the cold, royal mask she wore. She wasn't proud. She wasn't excited about this arrangement. She was trapped. He had read the reports. He knew why she was here. This was not a grand diplomatic honor for her. It was exile. Elias stepped forward, giving a polite nod. Princess Soraya. She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with an intensity that could have shattered glass. Captain Elias Voss. Her voice was steady, but there was a sharpness to it, like a blade hidden beneath silk. The Exiled diplomat spoke first, reading out the formal treaty terms, declaring this union as a symbol of cooperation. The humans gave their own speech, speaking of unity, trust, and the hope for lasting peace. But to Elias and Soraya, none of these words mattered. When the ceremony ended, Soraya turned to Elias, her voice calm but edged with something bitter. "Am I to be treated as a prisoner?" Elias shook his head. "No, you're free." She studied him for a long moment, searching for deception, but found none. "Then what am I to you?" Elias considered the question. He could have said she was his responsibility, his duty. But something about the way she stood, the way her fingers twitched slightly at her side, made him hesitate. Instead, he answered honestly, "I don't know yet." For the first time, Soraya's expression shifted. It was brief, almost invisible, but Elias caught it, a flicker of something uncertain. She was expecting coldness, indifference, maybe even hostility. But what she received was something entirely different. As they left the station, heading toward the human fleet, one thought echoed in her mind. Perhaps humans were more unpredictable than she had been told. Soraya sat silently in the transport shuttle, her gaze fixed on the vast darkness of space outside the window. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions, yet she felt smaller than ever. Her entire life had been carefully controlled, shaped by royal duties and expectations. But now she was drifting into the unknown, away from her people, her home, and everything she had ever known. Elias sat across from her, arms crossed, his expression calm but unreadable. The shuttle was quiet, aside from the gentle hum of its engines. The humans escorting them seemed cautious, watching her, but making no direct movements. She understood why. To them, she was an alien, a representative of an empire that had often treated humanity as inferior. Despite the peace treaty, there was no trust yet. Elias finally broke the silence. "We'll be arriving at Celeste Station in a few hours. It's a neutral zone between human and allied territories. It will be your home for now." Soraya turned to him. "And what am I expected to do there?" Elias met her gaze evenly. "Live. No one is expecting you to serve any purpose. You are not a prisoner, nor are you an ambassador. You are simply here." His words unsettled her. She was used to being given orders, to having a role. But now she was just existing. The shuttle eventually docked at Celeste Station, a massive human-built outpost orbiting a resource-rich planet. Unlike the cold, metallic designs of Scifi structures, the station had a warmth to it. The walls had patches of greenery, artificial sunlight filtered through open ceilings, and large windows displayed breathtaking views of space. Humans bustled about, some in uniforms, others in civilian attire. The atmosphere was casual but efficient, a strange balance between military discipline and civilian life. As Soraya stepped onto the platform, she felt dozens of eyes on her. Whispers followed her as humans stole glances, some curious, others wary. It was clear she was an oddity here. Elias didn't react to the attention. He simply walked beside her, leading her through the station. "You'll have your own quarters," he said. "No guards, no restrictions. If you need anything, just ask." Soraya glanced at him. "Why are you being so lenient?" Elias stopped walking and turned to her. "Because you've done nothing wrong. You didn't choose this arrangement any more than I did." For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. In the Scifi Empire, power was everything. Strength was respected. To show kindness, to act without demanding something in return, that was rare. She followed him into a living space far more comfortable than she expected. The room was spacious, with a soft bed, a desk, and a large window overlooking the planet below. It was nothing like the cold, empty chambers she had been given in the royal palace. She walked to the window, placing a hand on the glass. The planet below was covered in vast oceans and islands, nothing like the towering cities of her homeworld. Elias spoke from behind her. "That's Eos IV, a mostly human colony. Peaceful, for the most part." Soraya turned to face him. "Is that why you are stationed here?" "Because it is peaceful." He gave a short, dry chuckle. "I was stationed here because no one expected me to do anything important." That surprised her. "You are an outcast too, then?" Elias shrugged. "Not an outcast. Just overlooked." Soraya considered his words. For the first time, she felt a strange connection, however small, to this human. The days that followed were unlike anything she had experienced. The humans did not treat her like a princess. They did not bow. They did not whisper about royal bloodlines. They simply treated her as another person. She found herself observing them, fascinated by their casual interactions, their strange customs, their ability to joke and argue with each other without consequence. She watched engineers work tirelessly, not because they were ordered to, but because they took pride in their work. She saw children laughing in the station's communal areas, playing freely without fear. Even the soldiers, though disciplined, showed a sense of camaraderie she had never witnessed in auxiliary ranks. One evening, Elias found her watching a group of humans gathered around a screen, cheering and shouting. "It's a game," he explained, sitting beside her. "They compete against each other for fun." She frowned. "They are rivals, in a way, but not enemies. It's about challenge, improving oneself, testing limits." She shook her head. "In the Empire, rivalry is dangerous. If one rises, another must fall." Elias leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "That's the difference. Here, competition doesn't mean destruction. It means growth." Soraya remained silent, watching as one team celebrated their victory while the other laughed in defeat. She didn't fully understand, but for the first time she wanted to. Later that night, alone in her quarters, she found herself staring at her reflection. For years, she had been told she was useless, a failure, a burden to her father. But humans did not see her that way. For the first time in her life, she wondered, what if they were right? Soraya woke up to the gentle hum of Celeste Station's artificial systems. The air was crisp, filled with the distant sounds of human life. Footsteps echoing in the corridors, the occasional laughter from workers passing by, the steady announcements of schedules and tasks. For a moment, she felt disoriented. This wasn't the royal palace. There were no servants waiting outside her door, no strict routines dictating her every movement. She was free. But freedom was unfamiliar. She got up and dressed in the simple clothing the humans had provided her. Gone were the heavy ceremonial robes of the auxiliary empire, replaced by light, comfortable fabric. It felt strange, but not unpleasant. A soft chime sounded at her door. She hesitated before pressing the panel to open it. Elias stood there, arms crossed. "You look better rested." She raised an eyebrow. "Did I look terrible before?" He smirked, like someone waiting for an execution. Soraya didn't respond. He wasn't entirely wrong. "I thought you might want to explore," Elias continued. "No one's expecting you to stay locked in your room." She glanced past him, seeing the bustling hallways. The idea of walking among humans, unguarded, felt unnatural. But staying inside forever wasn't an option either. With a small nod, she stepped out. Celeste Station was unlike anything Soraya had known. The humans worked together with an effortless coordination that wasn't forced by rank or fear. Engineers, pilots, scientists, they all spoke freely, sharing ideas, offering help without hesitation. In the Empire, knowledge was power, hoarded by those who wished to climb the ranks. Here, it was given freely. She passed by a group of children playing with a floating drone, their laughter filling the corridor. A woman, likely a teacher, watched over them with a warm smile. Soraya couldn't look away. In the Empire, children were raised by caretakers, trained for duty from birth. There was no laughter, no carefree play. She hadn't even known such a thing was possible. "You're staring," Elias remarked beside her. She turned to him. "I don't understand." "What?" "This freedom. The way they live. No one is afraid. No one is fighting for dominance." Elias shrugged. "Humans fight plenty. We just choose our battles differently." They walked further into the station, eventually reaching a large observation deck. The reinforced glass stretched across the entire wall, offering a stunning view of space. Below, the planet Eo's IV shimmered, its vast oceans reflecting the distant light of a nearby sun. Soraya placed a hand against the glass. "It's beautiful." Elias leaned against the railing. "Not bad, right?" She turned to him. "Why did your people settle here?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. After the war with the Exiled, we needed neutral grounds, places where neither side had control. Eos IV was one of them. A fresh start. Soraya nodded slowly. The war had shaped everything, including the treaty that had forced her exile. And yet, humans had adapted. They had turned a battlefield into a home. As they stood there in silence, a sudden voice broke through the station's intercom. "Captain Elias, report to the command deck immediately." Elias stiffened, his relaxed demeanor vanishing. He tapped his communicator. "On my way." Soraya watched him closely. "Trouble. Maybe." He glanced at her. "Stay here. I'll be back." She frowned but said nothing as he hurried away. Curiosity got the better of her. Soraya knew she should stay put, but something about Elias's reaction unsettled her. She had spent years in royal courts, reading the hidden meanings behind words and gestures. Something was wrong. She made her way through the station, moving carefully through the hallways. No one stopped her. Most humans still seemed unsure of how to treat her. It worked to her advantage. Reaching the command deck, she stood back, watching from the shadows. Through the transparent control room walls, she could see Elias standing with a group of officers, staring at a holographic display. A ship had entered the system. A Xilari warship. Her blood ran cold. The transmission was already playing. The image of a Xilari commander flickered above the table, his expression sharp and unforgiving. "Return the princess to the Empire at once. You have no claim over her." Soraya clenched her fists. Her father had sent them. She had been nothing but an unwanted burden all her life. But now, suddenly, she was important enough to demand back. Elias's voice was firm. "The princess is under human protection. She is not a prisoner, but neither is she property to be claimed." The Xilari commander's eyes narrowed. "Your protection means nothing. She belongs to the Empire. Surrender her, or we will take her by force." The transmission cut off. The room fell into tense silence. Elias turned to his officers. "Prepare defensive measures. No one is taking her." Soraya felt something unfamiliar stir within her. For the first time in her life, someone was willing to fight for her. She wouldn't let them do it alone. The control room of Celeste Station was tense. Officers moved quickly, their voices clipped as they relayed orders. The holographic display flickered with the image of the approaching Xilari warship, sleek, predatory, and heavily armed. Elias stood at the center of it all, his jaw clenched. He had expected trouble when the princess arrived, but not this soon. Soraya stood near the entrance, her gaze fixed on the display. Her father's worship was a reminder of everything she had left behind. The cold halls of the palace, the endless scrutiny, the whispered rumors about her supposed infertility. And now, they'd wanted her back. Elias turned to one of the officers. "How long before they reach us?" 15 minutes at most, the officer responded. "They're not charging weapons yet, but their shields are up." Soraya stepped forward. "They won't attack immediately." Elias glanced at her. "You sound sure." She nodded. "My father isn't a fool. If he came all this way, it's because he wants something. And I doubt it's just me." Elias crossed his arms. "Then what's his game?" Soraya hesitated. She had spent her life studying royal politics, but she was still unsure why she suddenly mattered now. The Empire had exiled her, cast her aside. Why would they demand her return? Unless... She took a slow breath. He wouldn't have sent a warship unless he was desperate. Something must have changed. Elias didn't like where this was going. "And if we don't give you back..." Soraya met his gaze. "Then he'll force the issue." A new transmission came through minutes later. The Xilari commander's face reappeared, his expression unreadable. "Captain Elias, the Empire does not wish for unnecessary bloodshed. But you are holding someone who belongs to us." Elias's expression remained neutral. "She's not a prisoner. She came here under a lawful agreement." The commander's eyes darkened. "That agreement is null. The princess's status has changed." Soraya felt her chest tighten. So she had been right. Something had changed. Elias leaned forward. Explain. A pause. The commander seemed reluctant, but eventually he spoke. The exiled king is ill. Gravely ill. Without an heir, the throne will fall into chaos. Soraya stiffened. The words hit her like a physical blow. Elias glanced at her. And what does that have to do with her? The commander's expression hardened. She is still the princess. He wishes to name her as his successor. The room fell silent. Soraya felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. Her father, the man who had discarded her without a second thought, now wanted to make her heir. It didn't make sense. Elias narrowed his eyes. You exiled her. You called her infertile and cast her out. And now you want her back. The exiled commander's jaw tightened. The king's orders are clear. Soraya spoke, her voice surprisingly steady. And if I refuse? A cold silence. The commander's gaze sharpened. Then you doom the empire to war. After the transmission ended, Elias turned to Soraya. What are you thinking? Soraya's thoughts were a whirlwind. The empire had thrown her away, stripped her of her identity. Now when it suited them, they'd wanted her back. She clenched her fists. I don't trust them. Elias nodded. Neither do I. The officer beside him frowned. But if what they said is true, this isn't just about one princess. If the exiled collapse, it could destabilize the whole region. The war could spread to human space. Soraya exhaled slowly. She knew the weight of those words. The exiled empire was vast, and if power struggles erupted, millions, no, billions, could suffer. But that didn't mean she wanted to walk back into the viper's nest. Elias studied her. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. Soraya looked at him, surprised by the certainty in his voice. He meant it. Unlike the empire, which saw her as a tool, Elias saw her as a person. She shook her head. I don't trust them, but I need to know the truth. Elias sighed. So what's the plan? She met his gaze. I'll speak with my father directly. Elias frowned. That's risky. Soraya's expression was grim. I know. But if I don't, we might all regret it. Soraya stood in front of the holographic display, her fingers curled into tight fists. The exiled warship loomed outside the station, its weapons powered down for now. But she knew her father well enough to understand that patience was not one of his virtues. Elias watched her closely. Are you sure about this? She nodded, though uncertainty still swirled in her chest. I need to hear it from him directly. Elias gestured to the officer at the control panel. Open the channel. A second later, the display flickered, and the imposing figure of King Valtar appeared. His face was sharp, his silver eyes cold as ever. The sight of him sent a familiar shiver down Soraya's spine. This was the man who had ruled the empire with absolute control, the man who had banished her without hesitation. And now he was calling her back. Soraya, he said, his voice calm but firm. You have been away from your home for too long. She lifted her chin. I was cast out, father. You made it clear I had no place in the empire. His gaze remained steady. Circumstances have changed. Soraya scoffed. Now that you're sick. Now that you have no other heir. A muscle in his jaw twitched. You are still Celari blood. You are my daughter. The empire needs stability, and you are the only one who can provide it. She crossed her arms. Why should I believe you? Valtar's expression darkened. You always had a stubborn streak. But understand this, without a successor, the noble houses will tear the empire apart. Elias stepped forward. And if she refuses? The king's gaze flicked to him. His expression did not change, but there was something cold in his eyes as he regarded the human. Then you will force my hand. Soraya tensed. You would start a war over this. Valtar exhaled, his voice quiet but heavy. Do not make me choose between my daughter and my empire. The transmission ended, leaving a heavy silence in the control room. Soraya's mind raced. She had expected her father to demand her return, but this was different. The king was a ruthless strategist. If he had come all this way instead of sending emissaries, it meant he was desperate. Elias folded his arms. He's not bluffing. Soraya nodded. No, he's not. The officer at the panel hesitated. Captain, if war breaks out, we won't be able to hold them off. Elias exhaled. I know. Soraya turned to him. Then I have no choice. I'll go. Elias's expression hardened. Like hell you will. She blinked. Elias. He stepped closer. He threw you away when it suited him. And now he wants to drag you back because it benefits him. You don't owe him anything. Soraya felt a lump in her throat. It was the first time in her life that someone had defended her like this. She had grown up being treated as a tool, a pawn in political games. But Elias, he saw her as more than that. She swallowed. If I don't go, there will be war. Elias clenched his jaw. He knew she was right. If she stayed, the Xilari Empire would unleash its full military strength. Humanity had fought wars before, but this would be different. This would be a direct challenge to the Empire's rule. Then we need a plan, he said finally. Soraya tilted her head. What kind of plan? Elias's eyes darkened. One where you don't walk into their hands alone. The Xilari warship prepared for her arrival. The docking bay was filled with elite royal guards, their uniforms pristine, their weapons holstered but ever present. Soraya stepped off the transport ship, her posture straight and composed. She wouldn't let them see her uncertainty. At the far end of the bay, a grand figure waited, her father's most trusted advisor, Lord Zarek, his reptilian features twisted into something resembling a smirk. Princess Soraya, he said, his voice smooth. It seems exile has not dulled your fire. She met his gaze without flinching. I'm here to speak with my father. Zarek gestured. Then come. The king is waiting. Soraya followed, her heart pounding. She didn't know what awaited her in the throne room. But one thing was certain. She would not be the same helpless girl who had been cast out before. Soraya walked through the long corridors of the Xilari warship, her steps echoing against the polished metal floor. The royal guards flanked her on both sides, their faces unreadable behind their ornate helmets. Lord Zarek led the way, his posture relaxed, but she knew better than to mistake it for carelessness. He was always watching, always calculating. The doors to the throne room loomed ahead, tall and imposing. As they slid open, Soraya took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air inside was heavy with the scent of burning incense. The grand chamber was lined with towering statues of past Xilari rulers, their cold stone faces gazing down in silent judgment. At the far end of the room, seated on an elevated throne, was King Valtar. He looked older than she remembered. His once imposing figure seemed weighed down, his silver eyes dimmed by years of rule. But his presence was as powerful as ever. Soraya stopped a few steps away from the throne and bowed slightly, not out of respect, but as a formality. Father. The king's eyes studied her for a long moment. You have returned. She lifted her chin. You gave me no choice. His lips pressed into a thin line. You always had a way of making things difficult. Soraya clenched her fists. You exiled me. You erased my name from the royal records. And now, suddenly, I am needed. Valtar exhaled slowly. You were of no use to the Empire then. Now you are. Her jaw tightened. Because I am the only heir left. The king did not deny it. The Empire cannot survive without a strong ruler. Soraya scoffed. And what do you want from me? To sit beside you and smile while the noble houses fight over my fate. Valtar's gaze remained steady. No, I want you to take the throne. The words hit her like a shockwave. She blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. You? What? The king leaned forward slightly. The noble houses are divided. Some wish for war, others for peace, but none can challenge the rightful heir. If you take the throne, the empire stabilizes. Soraya's heart pounded. He was offering her power, the very thing he had denied her for years. But there had to be a catch. "And what of my exile?" she asked. Walter's expression remained cold. "It will be erased, as if it never happened." She narrowed her eyes. "And if I refuse?" The king's eyes darkened. "Then the empire will burn." A heavy silence settled over the room. Soraya glanced at Zarek, who stood at the edge of the chamber, his gaze unreadable. She took a deep breath. "And what of Elias?" Walter's expression did not change. "The human. He is not needed." Soraya's stomach twisted. "You would kill him." Walter's voice was quiet but firm. "He is an outsider. He serves no purpose to the empire." Her blood ran cold. "He saved me. He protected me when you abandoned me." The king's gaze was unyielding. "And now you must decide where your loyalty lies." Soraya's mind raced. The throne, power, control, the chance to shake the empire as she wished. It was everything she had once dreamed of. But at what cost? She thought of Elias, waiting back on the station, the man who had fought beside her, who had treated her not as a tool, but as a person. For the first time in her life, she had a choice, and she knew what she had to do. Soraya met her father's gaze. "I will take the throne." Walter's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Then the empire is yours." But Soraya wasn't finished. "I have one condition," she said. "Elias lives, and he is under my protection." The king's expression hardened. "You ask too much." She stepped closer. "You need me, father. More than I need you." A tense silence stretched between them. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Walter leaned back in his throne. "Very well." Soraya exhaled slowly, her heart pounding. The game was far from over. But for now, she had won the first move, and she would make sure Elias lived to see the next. Soraya stood on the balcony of the imperial palace, her gaze fixed on the sprawling capital below. The twin moons of Silari Prime cast a pale glow over the city, their light reflecting off the towering spires and golden domes. It had been years since she had last seen this view, and yet it felt like she was looking at a foreign world. Behind her, the doors to the chamber opened and soft footsteps approached. She didn't turn. She already knew who it was. "You really did it," Elias said, his voice filled with something between admiration and disbelief. Soraya let out a small breath. "I had no choice." Elias walked up beside her, leaning against the railing. "You had plenty of choices. You could have left. You could have taken the easy path." He glanced at her, "But you stayed." She finally turned to face him. "Because I had something worth staying for." Elias smiled slightly but didn't reply. The weight of everything that had happened in the past few days still hung between them. The tense negotiations, the threats from the noble houses, and most of all, the looming presence of King Walter. The old king had been forced to step down, his influence crumbling under the pressure of Soraya's unexpected return. She had seized control faster than anyone had anticipated, rallying supporters and securing alliances before her enemies could strike. The moment she had taken the throne, the tides had shifted. But the danger wasn't over. "You know they'll try to test you," Elias said. "The noble houses, the generals. They'll wait for any sign of weakness." Soraya nodded. "Let them." Elias chuckled. "That's the spirit." He paused for a moment, then glanced back toward the palace. "And your father?" Soraya's expression darkened. "He's been exiled. I gave him the same choice he once gave me. Leave or be erased from history." Elias whistled softly. "That's cold." She met his gaze. "He would have done worse to you." He shrugged. "Probably." Then, after a moment, he added, "You saved me, Soraya." She looked away. "You saved me first." Silence stretched between them. filled only by the distant hum of the city. The night air was cool, but for the first time in a long time, Soraya felt warm inside. Elias finally broke the silence. "So, what now?" Soraya straightened, her golden eyes gleaming with determination. "Now, we rebuild. No more pointless wars. No more blind arrogance. The exiled empire will be something greater than it ever was." Elias grinned. "You make it sound so easy." She smirked. "It won't be. But I don't plan on doing it alone." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Oh." Soraya took a step closer. "You stayed by my side when no one else did. You saw me not as a tool, not as a princess, but as a person. That's why I need you now, Elias." His grin faded slightly, replaced by something more serious. "And what exactly are you asking?" Soraya hesitated, then spoke softly. "Stay with me, not as a soldier, not as a bodyguard, but as my partner in this." Elias stared at her for a long moment, then slowly shook his head. "You know, I never thought I'd be standing here, having a princess ask me to help run an empire." She smirked. "It's not an order. It's a request." He chuckled. "Well, when you put it like that." He extended his hand. "All right, Your Majesty. Looks like you're stuck with me." Soraya took his hand, shaking it firmly. For the first time in her life, she was no longer just a piece in someone else's game. She was the one shaping the future now. And with Elias at her side, she knew the future was brighter than ever.